There's been a lot of impressive performances by a couple teams out there so far this preseason. One of them happened to come against the New England Patriots this past Friday night, coming by way of the Detroit Lions, absolutely shutting down the Patriots offense and looking very strong and very good. But can it continue into the regular season? You have to wonder if. And I think it definitely can. So here to talk a little bit more about the Detroit Lions, about that defense, and about some pretty plays on offense as well. Welcome to the show, Sean Yuille, Pride of Detroit. So what were you, I have to ask you this, as a fan and as of someone that covers this team, what were you more surprised with? Because for me, from my perspective, I know what the Detroit defensive line is bringing to the table. I mean, every single time you have to block these guys because they're nothing but phenomenal. I don't think there's any question about that. But what surprised me the most was that offense. They actually seemed to have their way with the Patriots defense. I know the Patriots were missing some guys, but still, I mean, what were you more surprised with, really?
I was most surprised with how rattled Tom Brady seemed to be against the defense for the Lions. He underthrew a lot of his receivers and just seemed off in general on Saturday night. And it really seemed to be because of all the pressure he was under on every play. Every time he dropped back, he had a couple of guys in his face almost instantly. Mm-hmm. And he seemed to be very uncomposed compared to his usual demeanor. Like even last on Thanksgiving against the Lions, Brady was hit quite a bit in the first half, but he bounced back and looked like his usual self and destroyed the Lions defense in the second half. And on Saturday, he was just off all game long when he was in there. And I think that was mainly because of all the pressure he was facing. And he did not seem to appreciate being hit repeatedly by the likes of Dominic Sue and Corey Williams. And I think it affected his game quite a bit.
Yeah, I think rattled is not even the word I'd use. I mean, shook up. I mean, the guy was getting croaked and throttled the entire night. He really was. And I'm sure, Detroit fans were absolutely loving it. So you have to look at it and say, does it continue, though? Because while all this is well and good, will it continue into the regular season? I mean, do you honestly think that this is something, this offense, this defense, these guys clicking right the way they did on Friday, do you think it will continue into the regular season?
It's certainly an interesting question because you really have to wonder how much can you take from a preseason game where neither team was really at full strength and the Patriots did not seem to be quite as hyped up for it as the Lions were, whereas if it were a regular season game, perhaps they would have been more ready to go. But I think in general, like the Lions offense, if Stafford stays healthy, I certainly don't think he's going to be completing 77% of his passes, but I think he's going to be very good, just as we all expected him to be last year before he got hurt. Mm-hmm. And I think with all of the weapons around him, what you saw on Saturday can definitely continue, where you have him throwing to Nate Burleson, throwing to Tony Scheffler, Pettigrew, Calvin Johnson, all these different guys getting involved. And on defense, I think they can certainly continue their pressure on quarterbacks with that defensive line, especially once Nick Fairley gets back from his injury and is reintroduced to the D-line. Then you have another player that defense or offenses have to worry about. So I definitely think it continue, perhaps not at such a high level every week.